In the spring of 1994, a 20-year-old took the field for the Orix Blue Wave in Japan. His last name, Suzuki, was one of the most common in the country, shared by tens of thousands of other Japanese citizens. So, in order to set the player apart, the team instead chose to put his first name on the back of his uniform. It wouldn't be long, though, before this young man would need no introduction. Ichiro Suzuki was destined to be a baseball player. When he was just 3 years old, his father, Nobuyuki, bought him his first glove. It wasn't a toy, he told Ichiro. It was a tool. Even though Ichiro is a natural righty, his father taught him to hit left-handed to gain extra steps out of the batter's box. Each day was the same. Ichiro would throw 50 pitches, take 200 soft toss swings, and do 100 fielding drills. At night, they would go to a batting cage near the airport, where he took 300 swings off of a pitching machine. They did this for several hours, every day, 365 days a year. This grueling schedule didn't leave Ichiro time for much else. In an essay he wrote in elementary school, he said that he only played with other children 2 or 3 days a year. Ichiro would later reflect on this time with his father. It might have been fun for him, but for me, I suffered a lot. Still, Ichiro's love for baseball endured. In 500 at-bats as a high schooler, he had a batting average of .502. Not once in any of those plate appearances did he strike out swinging. Despite his talent, though, most scouts thought that the 5'9" Suzuki was too small to compete professionally. Because of this, he wasn't chosen until the final round of the 1991 draft. Ichiro made his pro debut in 1992 for the Orix Blue Wave in Kobe, Japan. He struggled his rookie year, in part due to clashes with his coach over his unorthodox hitting style. See, while most Japanese hitters at the time followed a fairly similar approach, Ichiro had a unique swing, one that would go on to become his calling card. It began with a contorted batting stance, with his knees locked together. As the pitcher delivered the ball, he picked up his front leg and swung it back toward the catcher in a pendulum-like motion. He then strode forward, planted his front foot, and exploded through the ball, with a power you'd never expect out of his 170-pound frame. It was this swing that would launch him into the annals of baseball history. As a rookie, though, his manager disapproved and tried to force him into a more traditional stance. In a short stint with the team in 1993, Ichiro hit just .188. Things changed for the better in 1994, when the Blue Wave hired Akira Ogi as their new manager. Ogi made Suzuki an everyday player, the starting right fielder, and the leadoff hitter. By the end of the season, the 20-year-old had played himself into the history books. He shattered the Japanese single-season hit record with 210 in just 130 games. Up until then, nobody had even reached 200. He led the league with a batting average of .385, his first of 7 consecutive titles. His pay for all of this was $120,000. By 1995, Ichiro was being noticed in the United States. The LA Times devoted an entire article to the star, speculating on whether Suzuki could succeed as an MLB hitter. Ichiro denied wanting to move to the major leagues, however, and added that even if he did, he'd probably only hit .250. This was, of course, a lie. From a young age, Ichiro Suzuki had dreamed of playing Major League Baseball. The door was cracked open for him in '95, when star pitcher Hideo Nomo made the jump to MLB, becoming the first Japanese player to do so since 1965. Nomo shined in the majors, leading the league in strikeouts and winning the NL Rookie of the Year award. Even so, there were doubts among MLB teams about whether a Japanese position player could succeed in America. Ichiro, for his part, disagreed. As long as the ball is thrown by a human being, I have the confidence to hit any pitch, no matter how fast it comes. In just a few years, this claim would be put to the test. In 1996, the Toronto Globe and Mail published a profile on the most prolific hitter in Japan. Ichiro Suzuki, 21, an outfielder with the Orix Blue Wave, is the current poster boy of Japanese baseball. He's flirted with a .400 average much of his career, steals bases, makes girls blush, and sells just about every consumer product in Japan. By the late 90s, Ichiro's name recognition had long since crossed over into the US. During one exhibition series between Japanese and MLB players, Barry Bonds was reportedly blown away by the 5'9" Suzuki, saying, "That little shit can really hit the ball." With each passing day, more people were speculating about if and when Ichiro might make his move to the majors. On his first trip to the continental US, he traveled across the country, followed by a Japanese camera crew. One of his stops was Cincinnati, Ohio, where he had dinner with his favorite player in the world, Ken Griffey Jr. In an interview done around this time, Ichiro talked about how his dream was to play in Seattle alongside Griffey and Alex Rodriguez. But Jr. and A-Rod weren't the only reasons the Mariners were among the favorites to land Suzuki. See, while Seattle didn't have the deep pockets of the Yankees or the Dodgers, they did have other advantages. Their location on the West Coast makes travel between Seattle and Japan fairly easy. Seattle is also one of just 5 cities in the US to have over 1% of its population be Japanese American. And then there was the ace up the Mariners' sleeve. See, back in 1992, when then-owner Jeff Smulyan threatened to relocate the franchise to Tampa, the public had erupted in anger. To stop the move from happening, in stepped Hiroshi Yamauchi, a Japanese businessman and the CEO of the Nintendo company. Yamauchi had never been to a baseball game in his life, but he bought the team anyway as a gesture of loyalty from the Washington-based Nintendo of America. In 1997, team president Chuck Armstrong traveled to Japan, where he met with Yamauchi for the first time in person. During the visit, the owner expressed his disappointment that Seattle had failed to sign Hideo Nomo. When Armstrong left for America, he had a new mission: land the Mariners their own Japanese star. Cut to 1999. The media is in a frenzy around the Mariners spring training camp, with the news that Ichiro Suzuki is playing exhibition games with the team. Japanese reporters have flocked to Arizona, while the team itself starts a daily Ichiro journal to chronicle his movements. Sadly, Ichiro would be limited to just 4 games after contracting food poisoning. Still, the 25-year-old relished the chance to play with MLB stars like Edgar Martinez, A-Rod, and, of course, Ken Griffey Jr. A year later, Seattle would trade Griffey to the Cincinnati Reds. For the time being, Ichiro returned to Japan for the final year of his contract with the Blue Wave. Knowing that they were likely to lose him to free agency, they made Suzuki eligible to be posted. At the time, Japan's posting system was newly implemented, making Ichiro the first major star to undergo the relatively untested process. Once he was posted, MLB teams could make private bids to the Blue Wave, who in turn would give exclusive negotiating rights to the highest bidder. When it was announced that Ichiro Suzuki was being made available, Hiroshi Yamauchi gave Chuck Armstrong a simple message: you must not fail. By the final days of the bidding process, the number of teams had been narrowed down to 5: the Dodgers, the Mets, the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Mariners. On November 9th, 2000, news broke that would shock the baseball world. With a winning offer of $13 million, the right to negotiate a contract with the most talented hitter in Japan had been awarded to the Seattle Mariners. A few days later, Ichiro Suzuki was signed to a 3-year deal worth $14 million. General manager Pat Gillick was quick to assure Seattle fans that signing Ichiro would not impact their hope to reach a deal with free agent Alex Rodriguez. 2 months later, A-Rod signed the largest contract in sports history with the Texas Rangers. Despite adding Suzuki, the loss of both Rodriguez and Griffey less than a year apart had many concerned about the 2001 season. ESPN projected them to finish with 85 wins, 3rd place in the 4-team AL West. Soon, though, it would be obvious just how wrong these predictions were. On opening day of the 2001 season, Ichiro Suzuki made his major league debut. It was a home game against the Oakland Athletics, and the stadium was packed. The nearly 46,000 fans in attendance were the largest recorded crowd in Safeco Field history. People from all over the world had come to Seattle to see what Suzuki could do. Unfortunately, they would have to wait a bit, with Ichiro failing to reach base in his first 3 plate appearances. It was in the 7th inning, though, that the tables began to turn. Facing reliever TJ Matthews, Ichiro worked the count to 2-1 before smacking a sharp ground ball back up the middle, past shortstop Miguel Tejada, and into center field for the first hit of his MLB career. He followed that up with another single in the 8th, dropping an expertly placed bunt down the first base line. 2 days later, Ichiro put on another stellar performance, going 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored. This game raised his career batting average to .308. Never again would it dip below 300. The first week of Ichiro's career showed that he could hold his own in America. On April 11th, 2001, he established himself as one of the greats. In the 8th inning of a tied game in Oakland, Ichiro was called off the bench as a pinch hitter and proceeded to spark a go-ahead 3-run rally for the M's. The A's offense threatened in the bottom of the 8th. With 1 out and Terrence Long on first base, Ramon Hernandez hit a single to right field. This would easily advance the speedy Long to third, placing him firmly in scoring position. Or so everyone thought. Everyone except for Ichiro, who scooped up the ball, reared back, and, like a bullet out of a sniper rifle, unleashed a laser to nail Long at third. They called it the throw.
What a tremendous throw by Ichiro! I'm here to tell you that Ichiro threw something out of Star Wars down there at third base.
It wouldn't be long before everybody was watching. In a season that saw home run records obliterated, the emergence of Albert Pujols in the National League, and the retirement of legends like Tony Gwynn and Cal Ripken Jr., it was Ichiro Suzuki who was drawing worldwide attention. As Ichiro's star grew, so did the media presence around him. Japanese news teams made regular trips to Seattle. The team offered weekend ticket packages to international fans. In Tokyo, people would stay awake until 4 a.m. for Mariners games, camping outside subway station TVs to watch. He started the 2001 All-Star Game in Seattle, receiving over 3.4 million fan votes, the most of anyone in baseball. By the end of his rookie year, he had led the American League in plate appearances, at-bats, hits, stolen bases, and batting average. His 7.7 wins above replacement were the most by a rookie since Dick Allen all the way back in 1964, and wouldn't be topped again until Mike Trout in 2012. The Mariners, meanwhile, slightly overperformed their preseason projections, finishing with an incredible 116 wins. Seattle coasted to a division title, finishing 14 games up on the second-place Athletics, who themselves had 102 wins. Unfortunately, the 0-1 postseason saw the Mariners run out of steam, falling to the Yankees in the ALCS 4-1. Following the season, Ichiro Suzuki was named the American League Rookie of the Year, surprising absolutely nobody. A few days later, he became just the second rookie in MLB history to be named the most valuable player. In the years to follow his rookie season, Ichiro Suzuki would not only match his performance in Japan, he would surpass it. In 2004, he landed in the history books yet again, with 262 hits, breaking George Sisler's record of 257 from 1920. Ichiro would later pay his respects to Sisler, visiting his grave in St. Louis. See, if there's anyone who can appreciate the historic nature of Ichiro's career, it's Ichiro himself. It was reported during his playing days that Suzuki visited the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown more than any other player. While there, he would hold the gloves and bats of baseball legends. "It's not looking at Lou Gehrig's glove," said former Hall of Fame President Jeff Idelson. "It's wondering what he might have been thinking when wearing that glove." Like Gehrig, Ichiro was a model of consistency. From 2001 to 2010, he got at least 200 hits per season, had a batting average of .331, and was named to the All-Star Game 10 times. It would take until 2010 for him to go on the disabled list, and even then, it was only because a team physician forced him to sit after explaining that a ruptured ulcer in his stomach could kill him. Ichiro listened quietly to the doctor before responding, "I'll take my chances." He was traded to the Yankees in 2012, and later signed a 3-year deal with the Marlins, before returning to Seattle for his final 2 MLB seasons. By the time he retired in 2019, Ichiro Suzuki possessed the Mariners' record for hits, at-bats, stolen bases, singles, triples, and career batting average. His 3,089 hits as an MLB player alone are the 25th most in history. When you add in the 1,278 hits he had in Japan, his career total is a whopping 4,367. In January of 2025, Ichiro was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, just 1 vote shy of a unanimous decision. Ted Hyde, the scout who had helped put together Ichiro's initial visit with the Mariners, couldn't hold back his feelings when the news broke. "It's really emotional," he said, "because he's more like one of my children than he is a ball player." As for Ichiro's real father, Nobuyuki Suzuki remains in Japan, living in the home he built for his family. Adjacent to the house is a 2-story museum filled with artifacts from Ichiro's life: Star Wars action figures, childhood photographs, and his first glove, all for just $11 a ticket. Ichiro has never been inside. In fact, it's been years since the two men have spoken at all. Today, nearly 25 years after he made the move to America, Ichiro Suzuki's impact is still being felt. Without him, it's likely that stars like Hideki Matsui, and maybe even Shohei Ohtani, would have never left Japan. I thought about ending this video with some profound statement about how Ichiro changed not only the world of baseball, but sports as a whole. About how he redefined what it meant to be a hitter. About how, when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame this summer, it will be as one of the most beloved ball players of his time. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to end it with this.
What is your favorite American expression?
August in Kansas City, it's hotter than two rats in a fucking wolf sock. That's my favorite. I have a bad teammate.